on the last episode of Off the Charts with Jeff. I was Jeff, and we really got down into the weeds by connecting to some weather data, massaging that data, and preparing it for use within a dashboard. This is the second part, where we're going to go forward and we're going to use that data right on the dashboard. I'm Jeff, and this is Off the Charts with Jeff. Now, as I mentioned, this is the second part of our first video. If you haven't watched the first one, do take a look. It's called Adding Weather Data is a Breeze, and it's available right on the Off the Charts with Jeff's site. Now, this is a technical video. If you're not familiar with Dundas BI or you haven't built any dashboards, my goal isn't to teach you how to do that today. I'm going to be going fast, and I'm going to be building a little widget that we can embed into other dashboards. The reason I want to do this is because we do explore a lot of interesting controls that aren't necessarily used all the time, and we explore that idea of bringing in a dashboard within another dashboard, something I almost never see existing Dundas BI users do, and it's a concept that can be very cool and very useful. So let's get right into it. Here I am right now in Dundas BI, just on a blank dashboard. The first thing I'm going to do is resize this dashboard to be really small, because we want to design it roughly where I expect people to see it. I'm going to add an image control. So this is just a picture of a cloud that I have, but the only thing is this is really busy. Let's just match it to roughly fit our dashboard first, and I'm going to adjust the property for sizing to just stretch it out. That way it kind of gives that faint idea of clouds without having all that detail. Now let's go into our data. You can see I have weather data for everything. Just driving in the icon that we set up before, and I'm going to use the data image control. One of my favorite controls that a lot of people don't use. This one here is great because it just will dynamically change depending on the weather, so it'll always be a relevant icon. You can use this for a lot of business cases. Data labels, let's add that. And I'm going to just display the weather data as text, as also the user location. One of the great things about the data label is by adding various bits of information that you want to see, you can customize that text. So by going to properties here, I have all those weathers, but I'm adding the word in. So you'll see as I just drag this in, it'll say sunny in North Las Vegas, Nevada, US. So it brings in all that data that I want and just kind of mashes it together in a proper sentence. Now I want to do sunrise, sunset data. So by adding this here, I'm just giving an icon that's hard-coded and not changing. So I have one for sunrise and one for sunset. So let's just position these on the side of our tool. And I'm going to use some properties that are very useful if you're not aware of these. By selecting both objects and going under Arrange, I can match the width, I can match the height, I can match, in my case, the left location of these icons, so they all appear in the same place. So if you're not using those, that Arrange feature is very useful. Now let's just pull in that sunrise and sunset back as a data label that I did before. But you notice that there's a lot more information here. I have a full date as well as the time. I don't care about the date, I just want the time. So let's just first get both of these on here. But one thing you can do is you can format these. So by going to Properties, and simply adding a colon, and in this case a T, which is a format code for time, and I'll do this for both, you'll notice that I simply get the time. It strips out all that date information that I don't care about. So now I really quickly have a sunrise, sunset date on here. Let's just position these a bit more cleaner. Now from there, let's actually get the temperature information on here. I drag the temperature, Celsius, sorry our American friends, but that's what we use here in Canada. And you'll see that I'm just bringing this back as a data label. And just like I did before, structuring a bit of a sentence. So it says, feels like at the degrees Celsius, that kind of thing. The other thing I want to do is just change the formatting of this really quick because I don't want so many decimal places appearing. Let's just bring it down to 0. And there we go. 18 degrees, feels like 18 with wind chill. Let's just make this a little bit bigger, changing some properties. And that's good enough for now. And the last thing I want to do is explore wind data. So we actually do get the wind, in this case direction in degrees, which I'm going to visualize as a gauge. Now you would make this a 360 gauge, but I'm going to quickly apply a style, so I kind of pre-built this part because there's a lot of little things I might change. And I don't want to bother you with the minutia of everything that we're setting. So the idea is I want to create a simple compass. So it's just a circle and an arrow giving me rough direction. So let's just make, using properties, that marker become black, just make it a bit darker. And we're going to change it to what we call a marker so it's more floating. And just set the length and width to be a lot larger. So now you see we have that little wedge there, which we're going to change to an arrow. And there you go. We have very much the feeling of a compass using that gauge. A lot of customization can go into this. Let's add a little bit more text into a data label like we did before. One of my favorite often overlooked features, by the way. I don't see enough people doing just well-structured data labels, giving tidbits of information. And there you go. And remember, all of this is dynamic, so this text is changing. Very quickly add some filtering. When we built this data, we baked in latitude and longitude. So I'm going to hook up the latitude in this case for each one of those visuals so that it can be changed by the user. Let's add another one for longitude. And same deal, just check off longitude for each visualization where I want this to apply. So in most cases, the user will be allowed to change it, but I'm building these deliberately off screen, and I'm going to set a script here. This script is going to automatically use the geolocation of the browser in order to fill this in, so that I don't have to have the user change anything. They just view the widget. So that's all it takes. If you want that code, gladly send it to you. Ask Jeff@dundas.com, which I'll show up later. But here we are in view mode, and let's just rerun that dashboard, and you'll see it did pick up that I'm here in Toronto right now, and all the relevant information filled in properly. One other thing, let's make this dashboard scalable. As I view it, notice how it blows it up to my available size. Because if we're going to embed this into another dashboard, I do want it to change based on the size of whatever I put it in. Here's a dashboard where I created some space in the top left. Let's drag and drop that widget control onto the dashboard, and then let's just size it to fit the way we want it. And that's all it takes. So that's really cool. The widget concept, as I mentioned, is something that I really don't see people using, and there is a lot of potential there because just think of the amount of reuse you could do whenever you have a control that you want to just build and use. By the way, controls can be built using the API as well. You don't have to use this method, but this is one that I particularly like because it's quick and easy, as you just saw. Now, as I mentioned before, my goal wasn't to teach how to do this, it's really just to walk you through the steps that I did. But if you do want to watch someone build a dashboard from start to finish, take a look at a webinar I did a few years ago called How to Build a Dashboard. It will walk you through ground up building a dashboard from start to finish. So I believe it's well worth your time if you're looking for that kind of information. That's all for today, and thanks for watching.